Right, stop scrolling, because we finally know what Tyson Fury thinks about his dad fighting Carl Froch. And honestly, his response is not what anyone expected. Because while the whole boxing world has been losing its mind over this, while John Fury has been dropping video after video looking like a man possessed, while Froch has been accepting challenges and calling people bullies on camera, Tyson Fury has been almost completely silent. And in this situation, that silence says more than any rant ever could. So let's break down exactly what Tyson has and hasn't said, why it matters, and what it tells us about where this fight is actually heading. Stay with me because this one goes deep. Let's just quickly rewind for anyone who needs the full picture before we get into Tyson's position specifically. John Fury confronts Carl Froch at the Tyson Fury vs. Makhmudov press conference at Tottenham. Froch is there working for Netflix, professional capacity, doing his job. John Fury clocks him, decides this is the moment, and goes full John Fury. Shouting, swearing, chest beating, the whole performance. Security gets involved, it nearly kicks off properly, and the whole thing goes viral almost immediately. Now the reason this happened is because Froch has been on his YouTube channel, which is one of the biggest boxing channels in the country right now, calling John Fury out for his behavior over a long period of time. The headbutting incidents, the bullying at press conferences, the intimidation of people who can't fight back. Froch said what most people in the sport were thinking but keeping quiet about. So John Fury sees red. Multiple videos follow. He calls Froch a worm. He threatens Joe Egan. He looks like Emperor Palpatine jogging down a street at 6 in the morning, foaming at the mouth. Then, in the same breath, he says he won't fight Froch because he doesn't want to give him a payday, then immediately calls him out for the Tottenham undercard. Classic John Fury, all over the place, impossible to pin down. Froch accepts publicly on camera, says he'll come out Cobra style and set about him. Says if John Fury had come up to that platform, he would have volleyed him back down the stairs. And just like that, this thing has gone from a press conference incident to a confirmed call-out with a potential venue and a date. But through all of this, one person has been conspicuously quiet. The one person whose opinion arguably matters more than anyone else's in this situation, Tyson Fury. So the press conference itself, Tyson is there. He gives a big speech about why he came back to boxing, talks about making boxing great again, bigging up the Makhmudov fight, all the usual Tyson Fury showman stuff. He's in great shape apparently, been out in Thailand training, feeling rejuvenated, all of that. And you'd expect, wouldn't you, given that his dad has just caused absolute carnage at the same event, that someone in that room is going to ask him about it. Whether it's a journalist, a pundit, someone, because it's the elephant in the room. John Fury just went for Carl Froch at this man's press conference. So what does Tyson say about it? Almost nothing. His only reference to his dad is this. He gives his thanks to various people involved in the show and then drops a joke. Big shout out to me dad because without him I wouldn't even be born. The room laughs. Tyson smiles. And then he moves on. That's it. That is the full extent of Tyson Fury's public comment on the situation at the actual press conference where it all happened. Now think about that for a second. This is a man who is not shy. Tyson Fury has never in his life struggled to fill airtime. He will talk about anything to anyone for as long as you let him. The fact that he reduces the biggest story surrounding his own event to a one-liner joke and then changes the subject is not an accident. That is a deliberate choice. Here's where it gets interesting, because there are really only a few explanations for why Tyson has stayed this quiet, and none of them are particularly simple. The first possibility is that Tyson is genuinely unbothered, that he sees this whole thing as his dad being his dad, a sideshow that has nothing to do with his preparation for Makhmudov, and he's just not engaging with it because it's not worth his energy. That's a plausible read. Tyson has a fight on April the 11th against a legitimate knockout artist who is bigger than advertised. His focus arguably should be entirely on that. The second possibility is more complicated. Froch claimed, and this is significant, that Tyson was privately furious at his dad for the whole episode. That behind-the-scenes Tyson was not happy. Not happy at all that this chaos was erupting around his comeback fight. If that's true, then the silence in public makes sense. You're not going to go out and publicly criticize your own father. but you're also not going to enthusiastically endorse behavior you're privately embarrassed by. So you say almost nothing and hope it goes away. The third possibility, and this is the one I find most interesting, is that Tyson is actually quietly fine with all of it. Because think about what John Fury's chaos has done for the Tottenham event. It has kept that show in the news cycle every single day. Every John Fury video, every Froch response, every pundit reaction, it all feeds back into awareness of a show headlined by Tyson Fury. From a pure promotional standpoint, even if it's messy, even if it's embarrassing, it's working. Right, so this is the bit you've been waiting for. Because away from the press conference, there are clips circulating of Tyson weighing in more directly. And the tone is very different from the diplomatic joke at the podium. In one exchange, Tyson makes it pretty clear where his loyalty sits. When the topic of people talking badly about him came up, he essentially said that if someone had talked to him the way Froch has talked about his family, there would have been serious consequences. Not in a jokey way either. In that matter-of-fact way Tyson does when he actually means something. And look, when you think about it from Tyson's perspective, that's completely understandable. Froch has been on his YouTube channel, which again is massive, making comments about Tyson's losses to Usyk, about John Fury's behavior, about the whole family's conduct in and around the sport. That stuff gets back to people. It gets back to Tyson. And the Fury family, whatever you think of their methods, operates on a very clear code of loyalty. You come for one of them, you come for all of them. So publicly, Tyson plays it cool, keeps the joke light, stays focused on Makhmudov. But privately, and in less formal settings, the message is much clearer. He is not unhappy that his dad stood up to Froch. He just can't be seen to publicly endorse the chaos when he's trying to run a serious comeback fight. That gap between the public position and the private one is genuinely fascinating. And it tells you a lot about how sophisticated Tyson Fury actually is as a public figure when he wants to be. Now here's a question nobody seems to be asking loudly enough. Does Tyson actually want this fight to happen on his undercard? Because on one hand, as we said, the attention it generates feeds into his show. An undercard fight between John Fury and Carl Froch at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium would be extraordinary television. Netflix would love it. The crowd would lose their minds. It adds another layer of unmissable event energy to a night that's already stacked. But on the other hand, this is Tyson's big comeback. His first fight back after retirement. He has gone out of his way to set the scene properly. Thailand training camp, press conferences, the whole build. He does not want the main story of Fight Week to be his 60-year-old dad trading shots with a former world champion on the undercard. He wants the focus on him. And Tyson said something at the press conference that I think is relevant here, even though he wasn't talking about Froch when he said it. He talked about bringing a circus, about bringing entertainment and cameras and action and everything to the sport. He framed his comeback in terms of making boxing great again, making it unmissable, making it a spectacle. The John Fury versus Froch subplot, whether he engineered it or not, fits that exact brief. So my honest read is that Tyson is privately conflicted. He wants the event to be huge. He does not want his dad to embarrass him or get hurt. And he definitely does not want the story to completely overshadow his own performance on the night. Step back from the noise for a second and look at what's actually happening here, because I think there's a story within the story that nobody's really talking about. John Fury has spent years being the most chaotic presence in British boxing without any real consequences. He headbutted Carl Frampton at a press conference. He got in Steve Bunce's face for no reason. He has threatened and intimidated people at events consistently over a long period of time. And every time, it gets talked about for a few days and then disappears. Nobody ever really holds him accountable, because nobody with enough profile wants the aggravation of engaging with him. Until Froch. Froch is the first person with a big enough platform, a big enough reputation, and frankly a big enough pair to actually stay in this and make it a proper story. And the reason Tyson's silence is so interesting is because it tells you that even the Fury camp knows this is different. This isn't some journalist or pundit who's going to quietly back down. This is a Hall of Famer with 4 world titles who runs one of the most watched boxing channels in the country and who is publicly committed to fighting your dad. You can't just brush that off with a joke at a press conference, even if that's what you try to do. And here's the thing. If this fight actually gets made and actually happens at Tottenham, Tyson Fury will be ringside watching his 60-year-old father fight a former unified world super middleweight champion. Think about what that night looks like. Think about the camera cutting to Tyson's face during that fight. That alone is worth the price of admission. So where does this leave us? Tyson Fury has said just enough to tell us he's not breaking ranks with his family, but not enough to fully own what his dad has started. He's walking a very careful line between loyalty and professionalism, and so far, he's managing it. Just about. But the fight is out there now. Froch has accepted. John Fury has called for Netflix to get in touch. The venue exists. The date exists. And Tyson Fury, whether he likes it or not, is right in the middle of it. The real question isn't whether John Fury is serious. The real question is whether Tyson lets this happen on his night. Because ultimately, that's his show, his event, his comeback. And nothing happens on that undercard without his blessing. So is that blessing coming? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to know what you think Tyson actually wants here. Until next time.